Welcome to the Mental Vet Investing Podcast with your host, Mike, where I talk about investing strategies with a frugal foundation from a veteran's perspective and to invest in self-mental awareness to ultimately become free of bad money habits and hopefully to stay financially independent. Episode 5. Should you be investing in real estate? Welcome back, everybody, to another crazy week. Here to talk about investing in real estate. This is where my main bread and butter is. So we'll get into it. And this show, I'm just going to be talking about, is it something you should look at? So my intentions is just to bring up all the good and the bad. And then towards the end, I'll get into what I do because I have a very specific niche that I invest in as far as real estate goes. And I have a reason for that. But want to throw out the options of the good and the bad in the ugly. But before we do that, let me get this disclaimer that I am not a financial advisor. I only express my opinions. This podcast and videos are for educational and inspirational purposes only. Please do your own research and make your own investing decisions based on your best judgment. So, again, hopefully everybody's doing healthy. It's the weekend. I don't know how you guys, listen to your podcast. If you're out there working out, driving on the highway, going to or from work, or maybe you're just chilling with a beer like myself. No coffee today. This time it's a beer. La Corona, being Corona, the beer, not COVID. All right. Anyway, real estate. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. Why should you invest in real estate? Well, there's several reasons. The key big ones, the big ones to take away is appreciation. Investing into something that is going to ultimately grow over years in appreciation is pretty good, right? You got all kinds of different things where you invest in the stock market, you get a certain amount of return over years. That could be like an appreciation, but real estate, you buy something, you rent it out, whatever type of property it can be. If it's the right type of property and the right type of location, it should appreciate over the years. So a lot of folks get into the investing for that. Cash flow, you get good cash flow if you do, again, if you do it right, looking at the numbers. And depending on how you set it up, whether you use a property management company or you do it yourself, can be a passive income, right? You can pass on to significant others as you get old. As if you keep real estate, it's something to pass on if you structure yourself right. Regarding like if you put it in an LLC or a trust fund, something that when you pass on, your children or your significant other can take it on, and then at that point in time, sell it. Hopefully, our tax laws haven't changed to hurt the beneficiary. But as we stand now, typically your significant others can take on the property and then sell it themselves or continue to take the cash flow and keep going on. So those are the big ones for real estate. Now, it could be timid. For myself, I never once thought about investing in real estate, not ever, until I decided to buy my second property when I was getting closer to the end of my retirement from the Navy. If you flip to my first episode, I have an introduction there and it kind of explains that. But I kind of stumbled upon real estate investing when I was looking to buy my second property for myself when I retired. So I was forced to learn how to get tenants and research how to do it. And I kind of just learned on the way the numbers, because that's the key to real estate investing. If you're doing this for buy and hold, I don't do any rehabs or flips, so I'm not even going to talk about it. And, I'm not so sure that's really great business these days as the real estate market is through the roof right now. But it is a good way to do it in real estate. You've got flipping, buy and hold. And then you got commercial. So I'm a buy and hold all the way. So when you're looking at investing in real estate for rental, for like a buy and hold, the return on investment is the key, right? For me. So we're going to talk about the numbers. And what do I mean by the numbers? And I think that a lot of people may or may not really think about this when you're outside thinking, oh, yeah, real estate, that looks pretty cool. I'll do that. Because if you're an avid YouTube watcher or news reader, I mean, there's always stories about real estate investing. Um, it seems like it's really popular. Um, so you might overlook some of the key things like what is the return on your investment? When I'm talking about that specifically is the numbers. Do they make sense? So what in the hell is the numbers? Well, when you're looking at a property to buy, you're going to have to pay income or property taxes, a mortgage payment if you're doing it through financing, possibly mortgage insurance. And then in some cases, you may have to pay the sewer, the trash, right? Insurance on the home itself. So those numbers are monthly expenses that you are on the hook for every month. So you have to calculate all that in before you think about spending the money and buying that property. And that's the key thing. So you got to learn all that first, right? Then what is the rental market you're going to be looking at? Everywhere is different. For me, and the reason I have a specific niche in real estate investing is because I'm forced to look out of state. Again, when I started the California stuff, that's where I live, is in California. And housing is just out of control. It's very, very hard to make the numbers make sense, specifically for small time investors like myself. I would be considered a mom and pop, and doing that style of investing. So in other words, purchasing a home, I'd have to come up with 20% down on a conventional. If you did a conventional loan, good luck. I mean, the average, I believe we're up in the 700s now, 600. I know nationally it's probably still around 300,000, 350, I believe, some odd thousand, typical average price of a home. Not in California. It feels like it's 800,000, but I think it's still around 7. I'm not even sure right now, but there's no way it just doesn't make sense. I couldn't afford it, So very hard to make numbers work for you unless you can get a real good deal or find something that's off market, so I invest out of state, and I found a little niche area that works out for me. But getting back to this ROI, so you got your ROI and you're thinking about all your expenses. Okay. Then what market are you going to be in? So where are you wanting to rent? Now, ideally, it would be great if you could live in the same area that you're investing in, because then you can pretty much do everything yourself. You certainly can. But just depends on where you're at. If you're in that market that's close, like you live in the market that you want to invest in, so the area that you want to rent, invest in, to rent, to buy and hold, what's the market like? What's the job? Is the typical labor, or is the typical workforce sales and tourist, industry? Because obviously we all know that's not doing so well now. Are you in a college town? Are you in a oil pipeline town somewhere down in Texas or something? Or all these things. Those are your customers. When you're going to start investing in real estate, it would really help you to think of it as a business. Now, maybe you're only wanting to do one or two or whatever your goals are, but from the get-go, from the beginning, think of it as a business, and your customers are where you're going to be investing. That's your market. Those are the people that you're going to be opening up to come in and apply to live in your rental property. So it's very, very important to decide that first above all else. And when I was finally getting the idea of renting or investing in rental properties, we took trips. Where I ultimately ended up investing is in Arizona, in a specific area. So that specific area, I used to, I know very well. Just through the years of my life, I used to always go out there for vacations or trips, and I've become familiar with that market, but I was not familiar enough to start investing for rental properties. So I had to start making specific trips just to learn that specific area where I ended up investing in. And that's what you have to do. You have to, especially if you can't do it in your own, for example, if you're living in California, I mean, it's just not going to happen for most people. I mean, it's just crazy, right? Right now, especially. So, do you know a spot? Look for that spot and take a trip. I even went to Florida one time because, I was stationed out there for a while, and I thought, well, yeah, I know about that area, and my initial thought was I wanted to get by a Navy base or a military base, because there you go, I always have a pool of possible tenants. But that's not always a great thing, because you'll have a high turnover rate as well, possibly, so, and that's another factor to count into your numbers, is the time that tenants are not in the home. You have to calculate that in too, right? So it might be pretty high if you're near a base. You might have a pretty high rotation. But, again, just as quickly as one Marine or one sailor moves out, another one might be able there to get one in. But if you're willing to work with that or do that, that'd be great. Now, would that make sense if you're having to pay, you don't want to be hands-on, so you're going to pay for a property management company? Well, that could be a problem, right? Because if you have a high turnover rate and you're paying shit tons of money, because your property management companies are always going to take like half the first month's rent on any new tenant, right? And as I found out, that's just garbage, because when I bought my second property, my initial intention was I bought it so that when I retire, I can move into it. But I still had like 2 or 3 years to retire, so I needed to get tenants. So my realtor was helping me out. And my first mistake was she was a realtor and then also did renting on the side. So she wasn't a professional property management company. So I should have recognized that, because that was a problem. But it forced me to do it myself. But she was going to take the first half of the first month's rent up front. And I ended up getting my tenants. I got tired of the excuses. I said, okay, how are we doing today? Oh, we've got some home walkthroughs, open houses on the weekend. I said, okay. And she goes, oh yeah, over this weekend, we had about 20 applicants. And, you think the next week, oh, great, we're going to get someone in there, because normally when you purchase your home, you don't have to make the first mortgage payment for a month later. So, we were doing okay. But as I got into that second week and third week, and I kept hearing the same story, and then I was hearing, well, my assistant was the one that actually was there. So she's going to filter through the applications and we'll let you know. All these little things were triggering little warning signs to me. And I was like, what? And plus, I'm stressing out. I got anxiety issues up the yin yang, and I'm the type of person, when I start getting freaky and my anxiety is killing me, I just take over. I just do things, So I just said, F it, I'm going to go find my own tenant. So I started putting flyers out. I was putting them out on the Navy bases, the Marine bases. And I signed up for this military app. I think it's ahrn.com. That was a good it's like another rental service just for service members. They can log on to it and they can search for houses. A lot of the Navy housing, if you're in the Navy, promote that website. So, so I went on there and made an account and put my house on there. And I think ultimately I found the tenants. I found a Marine and a wife and his wife, civilian. And boom, got it done, got them in. I was letting her do the background checks because I wasn't too familiar at that point how to do the background checks properly, to get what do I really need from a background check. So, and I got the tenants, and then she really didn't do anything at all. Ultimately, she finally decided, well, I'll just go with them. I said, well, can you at least do the background check? And so she did that. But I ended up paying like $900 something for that, because the rent for that market was I think it was at $2,000 a month. I can't remember, or $1,900 a month, $1,950 a month. That was like 4 years ago. So 900 and some odd bucks to basically not really do much of anything. The pictures were already on Zillow, so all you have to do is copy and paste them in and make your ad for a rental property. So, so when I saw that, I'm a penny pinching type of person, and I just couldn't get over that. I couldn't get over that. Like, damn, I did all the work, which really wasn't that much work. I had to learn how to put something on Zillow and then learn how to get that. Like, I signed up for that ahrn.com, and I got it out there. And so that was back to where I'm saying about where you're at. It really does matter, because, and then if, I had those military couple, and guess what? A year later, they rolled out. So being by a military base isn't always probably the best thing. But again, if you're doing it yourself, should be good to go. But anyway, so the area is key. You need to know your market. And so we took a trip out to Florida, and went out there and like towards Jacksonville, because I was stationed out there for a while and thought I knew the area. And when you start going out there and you think, okay, you can pick up a property for, I don't, 80,000, 70,000, whatever might be the case, and then you can pick up rent for about 600 to 700. Okay, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, and it's like, it's not bad. It's not let's look into it. But it's just way too far, because I was on the West Coast. And it's when I really started to notice that, property management companies, it's just really hard to get, I called about 3 different ones, and really me and my wife went out there just to have a mini little vacation. So, it was fun, but we were really there to see if investing in that area would be wise. But I knew the base was there. Supposedly there was going to be an Amazon plant being built there. And then, like I said, the housing was something cheap that I can potentially look at, either trying to save up and buy cash or get a mortgage. And I just had lots of problems trying to get straight answers from more property management companies. And so I think, you know what, F this. I don't like that. It just, the overall feeling was bad. So we came back and we kept talking about, well, what about Texas, or what about this or that or the other? And then, so that is very important to understand where you're investing, because then you're able to more effectively calculate your return on investment a little bit better, So, like I said, your ROI, you need to know your numbers, the taxes, the insurance, the home warranty, if you're going to have a home warranty. Just on that, I love the home warranty, but more specifically because I'm an out-of-state investor. So home warranties are key for me. When I've had my tenants call for plumbing issues, electrical issues, the home warranty, boom, gets out there and takes care of it. I've only ran into, I think, one item that the home warranty didn't cover, and it was a water leak. Not just so you know my background, the the properties that I invest in is mobile homes. So you have water pipes underneath, but they have access to them. Home warranty did cover that. But outside of the property, for example, a water spigot for like a garden hose blew off. They did not cover that. so, so anyway, but I know a handyman, and I was able to have that. And that repair costs. Actually, that repair was free because the handyman just is a good person, and he was able to take care of that. But most things inside the home warranty take care of, so it's worth it. And I use that as my maintenance calculation because most of my it's a monthly fee, like 50 something dollars. So but again, that's kind of a choice thing. If you're wanting to do a home warranty, you do have insurance, but the insurance isn't going to cover things like that. But insurance is important to have to protect yourself against things that may happen with your tenants. And like I said, if you're going to have a property management company do it, let them deal with that. And then you may not need to pay for a home warranty, right? Now, as far as, so you've got that, but still part of that, you need to know what can you rent your property for. So you know the area you're going to invest. You've got a rough idea. How do you know what the rent is around there, especially if you're not local? Well, what I've used is rentalmeter.com, Zillow, HotPads, which is a part of Zillow, and Facebook, right? So Rentometer is a really good tool. What I do is it's a program that you have to pay for. However, what I've done in the past is you get 5 free attempts. So you can plug in up to 5 different addresses and get the results. And what all Rentometer is, if you're not familiar, is a website that you go on and you type in your state, city, local area, and what type of property you have, 2, 3, 4 bedroom, whatever. And then they'll give you what the average rent of that area is. And it's pretty accurate. I mean, it's so, it's a great tool to have, but I do not solely go off of that tool at all, because I found where I rent, it's a little bit higher than what I actually was seeing rent. But it was a great tool for me to look at real quick and just kind of get a base, like, okay, something like this, a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, blah, 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 is going for, whatever a month. So that's a great tool. And I eventually, as I started to grow, my second one and my third one, I ended up just paying, I did a one-time payment because I needed to do a little more research. When you pay for it, and I don't know what it is, I forgot. It's not too much, but once you pay for it, you get a hell of a lot more details, like down to you can even look up you'll get other houses in the area that you're looking at, and you can pop them up and it'll have a listing of their pictures. And because you want to see, when you're in the property that you're looking at, what are the other properties running at, and how are they, or how were they advertised as? Did they have decent looking carpet or laminate floors? Those kinds of things. So that, and then Zillow, I always put on there. Now Zillow, I find that where I'm investing, their rent estimate is always higher than what it is. And it's funny when you put your property on the market for rent, and you put your rent, I want $1,200 a month or whatever, then you'll notice that Zillow kind of adjusts to that. And then if you're not getting that and you drop the rent or whatever, the average rent drops too. So it's just something to compare. You take the Zillow, compare it to what you're finding on the Rentometer, let's say, perhaps. And then HotPads is kind of the same thing, right? It's just something I open up and I kind of get an idea of what other people are putting their properties for. So I know that I'm not over asking or under asking my rental price. And then Facebook, in the last 2 years, before I get any further, I've been renting in the real estate, or I've been investing in the real estate since 2017. So, I'm small time, and I don't plan on getting too much crazier with it. But just so you know the extent of my experience here. And I've been using Facebook the last 2 times that I've had to put new tenants in. I don't think I've ever found anybody off of the Facebook yet, but yeah, it's definitely another tool to have for sure. So those key things, right, is rental properties that you're going to be thinking about. And again, this podcast is not to tell you how to do it or for you to sit there and say, well, that's absolutely not what I want to rent it. I don't want to invest in mobile homes. That's trashing my money. Um, the idea is just so you get, or the point of this is so that you get an idea of everything that's involved without all the hype. Because if you go and you start Googling this, how to invest in real estate, let's say, you'll come across the big platforms and they're going to, and they're great platforms. Like I first started with Bigger Pockets. I started getting on there and just researching, and it's a great networking site. And now they've blown up to really big. I mean, you got these big time podcasters on there, and they are very insightful, and it's very nice to read. But what I find a lot of the time is they're too big for me now. They're always talking about how I made my first, how I bought my first 100 properties in 2 years or 1 year, my first 100 properties in 9 months, and all this crazy shit. That's not, I have no desire for that. Now, if you're young and you're, just getting into the game, the sky's the limit. And I totally appreciate that. My podcast is the mental vet. So I'm retired. I'm not old, but I'm not wanting I'm not setting high goals like that. Something that I can get cash flow and I can live without having to work another 20-year job. That's the goal of what I'm doing. So, but again, those platforms, Bigger Pockets, and then you name it, there's a YouTube channel on it. So you can find plenty of stuff on how to do it. My point is just to get you all the stuff that you got to look at before you decide, because like I said, when I started to do this, I had no clue what I was getting into. I stumbled upon it, but I've discovered that it's a good way to invest your money. So I picked up books and I started reading. But we're going to take, so as I get into the second part, just real quick, if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Leave any comments you want below, and we'll get back in a minute. So along with the return on investment number, the ROI, you'll hear, and especially if you start researching, when I first started, like I said, when I was looking at those Bigger Pockets episodes, and I keep hearing these rules, the 1% rule, the 2% rule, all these effing rules. And here, well, before I give you my spiel, the takeaway of the 1% rule is the rent charge should be equal to or greater than the investor's mortgage payment to ensure that at least they break even on the property. Multiply the purchase price of the property plus any necessary repairs by 1% to determine a base level of monthly rent. Ideally, an investor should seek a mortgage loan with monthly payments of less than the 1% figure. Okay, so now what is my take on that? Learn the numbers first and base it on yourself. I mean, again, what are your goals of investing in real estate? If you stumbled upon my podcast, I'm hoping that you might be slightly interested in investing in real estate. So why is it that, are you trying to find passive income like myself, something to have like that passive income come in? Well, for me, it's not so passive. I'm hands-on. I do everything myself. So, but actually I guess you could say it is passive. Anyway, whatever your goal is, I don't strictly adhere to my 1% rule, but I've got myself now to think, well, I know when I look at a price of a property, I know what specifically the particular niche that I'm in with mobile homes. I know that particular mobile home is costing this much, and I already know I can rent for that much. So I can estimate much quicker just by looking at, like, I have a mortgage calculator, an investment calculator that I use to get me my return on investment. And I'm averaging, about 9 to 10%, which is good. right? That's what I get based off of my numbers and what I charge for rent. And at the end, when I was first researching this, another thing I came across on Bigger Pockets was that they were basically saying at the end of all your payments, your insurance, your um, taxes, whether you're paying sewer or water, or depending if you're going to get a condo, do you have to pay a percentage of the water, all these things. After all of that, if you can still pocket and cash flow $200, that's a good investment. Now, I don't know what the rules are. And again, what's right for you might not be so much right for me. My style of investing is not so much the way another one should invest. And that's why I don't do, courses and things like that. But I always thought or felt that that was a general good way to look at it. So that's the way I did it. Like when I first bought my second home. So my second home, and I put tenants in there, I was breaking even. I had a high mortgage payment, and the rent was just maybe $50 more than what my mortgage was. But again, my mindset at that point in time was nothing to do with real estate investing. It was just to get someone to keep my mortgage payment until I can move in the house. But then I learned after I did those steps, it's not easy, but it's doable. There's a process to getting it in, and then you get your tenants in there, and it's like, man, shit, maybe next time I could charge a little bit more rent and I can have a little bit more to play with and start having a bit of a cash flow. But that $50 a month didn't really add up to much because there was things that came along the way. Having a home, there is maintenance costs to that. So I think I had the first big thing I had an issue with was that I think there was a leak on the roof. The most scariest effing thing, right? And the house has tiles on the roof. It's not the asphalt. It's just like a clay tiles. So what happens over the years is these clay tiles will slide. The nails that hold them in eventually rust out, and the tile will start to slide. And California, we don't get much rain. But lately, the rains, when they do come, they're hellacious. Floods of water coming down. So anyway, some water got underneath the tile and caused this stain in the house. And the tenant that I had was, they were, they would always notify me when something was going down. And it was kind of always a freaky, like, oh my God, the water is coming through the roof. I don't want to be responsible for it. So I'm hearing this on the phone, and I'm just freaking the F out of my mind. So, of course I tell the tenant, well, is it actually leaking through or not? She goes, no, I just see this stain. I was like, okay, well, the rain had already passed. I'm going to come up there and check it out. So I found this roofer, and he got up there and he said, yeah, you just need to you just need to put the tiles back in place and re-nail it with new nails. But he had to remove a couple of them and put the new barrier paper in between that tile and the plywood of the roof itself. And it, at the end of the day, it came out, I think it was like $450, $400. And they replaced 4 or 5 tiles. So poof, whatever I had saved up was completely gone. And the nice thing when you purchase a home is I requested that the seller put a home warranty in there. So the home warranty was covering all the other items. So because of that home warranty, the other issues that did arise, which were small issues, leaking toilet, that home had a leaking toilet, and the tenants were always getting these notifications from the water company, your water bill. So again, they called me, oh my God, my water's too high. I'm not paying for this water. It's crazy. I'm paying too much. Right. So I got in there and I called the water company, and they said, yeah, you'll get notifications when you have a high usage. It's like, okay. So luckily this time I had the home warranty. I called the home warranty. They went in there and they took care of it. And that was like, oh man, thank God they were able to cover that. And you only have to pay a small fee to get that home warranty out there. for them to show up and do that. So it's real beneficial. So we're going to wrap this up. Those are things to think about. The number one thing, the key thing, is know your market. Well, but prior to that, what is your goal to invest in real estate? It is a great way to invest in, when you're doing it in real estate. I would argue that now it's pretty tough. It's really tough. The market is just absolutely wild, out of effing control, the housing market. And it's been high, and that's what pushed me into investing in mobile homes particularly. Now, when I invest in mobile homes, there's a huge stigma to that. But to me, the numbers don't lie. The proof is in the pudding. So, being in California, and this was prior to COVID, prior to all of this crap, it was already ridiculously high here, right? Plus, you've got all these tax increases and all these other things, and if you got to also look at LLCs, right? Protecting yourself and protecting your investment, putting it structured on an LLC. And I'm going to continue this conversation investing in real estate on my next couple of episodes, because I don't want to make this run forever. And I'll get into like how to do an LLC, because I've done all that shit on my own. But for example, to do an LLC here in California is like $900 something a year to do that. And I, at that time, I had the one house, and I'm like, God, yeah, no way. So then I started thinking about mobile homes here, because they're cheaper. You're 100,000 or less, depending on where you're at. I was like, there you go, and you can get a decent rent, and it's a little less stressful. Well, what I quickly found is on all the mobile homes that are not parks or that are not 55 and plus, just the normal park, you're paying lot fees. A lot fee. You're paying a monthly fee just to have a mobile home on a piece of land. And that's everywhere from, down in the border up through the northern part of Southern California. I could not find anything that didn't charge. And if they did, then it was just some trailer with windows and wasn't legit. So some of those lot fees were getting up in the $700 a month, $800 a month, $400 a month, right? And no, because now you're going to pay that. Now the idea for me was to buy cash, so because you're looking at $60,000 or whatever it is, and but I don't. The reason I wanted to do that is cash buy is because that's the same amount of money you have to put down on a for your 20% on a conventional loan, let's say. So the way I looked at it is I'd rather just take that money and put it down and just buy a home outright. And again, going back to everybody has their own ways. You've got this whole idea of that you hear a lot about on these podcasts and these bigger pockets and all these different things, not using your own money to buy something. Take a loan, borrow a credit, purchase your first home, you buy, you rehab, right? Like the Burr strategy. That is not me. It's too much for me. I don't like having all these mortgages that I have to end up paying if the tenant does not pay. It's just too much stress for me. So it got me into that mobile home niche. And when I saw it out front, I was like, I would rather just take that money instead of putting it down on a big ass mortgage payment that I'm going to have, and then just buy the mobile home. But then I quickly found, not in California, my friend. Because even if you do that, great, you're still going to have to pay $400. I mean, if you want a decent mobile home park in Southern California, I think and now some of them don't have it, and those are typically the 55 and older parks. And again, that's limited. That goes back to knowing your market where you want to rent. And the way I see it, and the way I talk to myself is, why would I want to buy something and automatically limit my customer supply? I can only go with the 55 and older. So I shot that down. I'm sure there's people that do it. I did meet one person on a Facebook group that said that's what they invest in, and they were trying to work towards buying the whole park. Fantastic. Do it. once you find your niche and you learn every little thing about it, you can be successful. You absolutely can. But it requires work, groundwork, research, and so forth. So those lot fees didn't make it, and that's why ultimately I ended up leaving and looking to out of state, right? But back to the question: should you invest in real estate? That's up for you to decide. And hopefully, by this podcast today, you kind of got a better broad range of thoughts or ideas to be looking at for yourself. Is it worth it for me? Yes, I do everything. I do my own property management. I do my background checks. I do the leasing. I use programs to make my leases for me. I use the e-docs, so I don't have to do anything in person. It's all through over the mail or email. A lot of tools are available for you. And then when the COVID hit, a lot of other things became more normal. I was always renting out the properties that I have because I'm out of state. I was always doing it like we were already in the COVID thing, because I would normally screen all my tenants out. And there's a whole process to doing that I found really works well. And we'll just have to do that for a separate episode. But there's a process. The way you describe your property on Zillow, you list in there right off the bat your minimum requirements, so you can already start filtering out stuff, people, right? So after the background was done and after they passed all of those things, only then would I do a walkthrough, because I have to go and drive out there and do a walkthrough of a property, right? So there's a lot to that, but it can be done. And if you want more of a hands-off approach, you absolutely can do it. But instead of putting the time in to manage it yourself, put in the time to find that right property management company. And to me, I just couldn't find one. Just couldn't find one. You got to understand that they're managing a whole lot of other properties. And as they grow, they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And if they don't reinvest in themselves to properly manage the growth of properties that they're managing, I felt like the ultimate loser was the customer, which is us. Someone, I'm still paying them, but they're not necessarily doing that much of a great job as what they did before, So obviously I can't keep doing this. There will be a point where I'll have to get somebody, but at least, I like the area that I invest in, I'll know a good background to who I should be going with to take care of my properties as I get too old. So, but real estate investment, I feel is a great tool, because like they say, everybody needs a place to stay. If you can find the right location, and trust me, you'll be surprised. You will be surprised. And we got big migrations going on right now. Lots of people moving out of California, but at the same time, real estate agents are telling me, well, they're still coming in here. People with high tech jobs are moving into San Diego and keeping the house pricing through the roof. And it's just, and you also have to remember too, like the real estate is just, I feel, way overpriced right now. You've got people, and this is no shit. A real estate friend of mine said that he is seeing now people are coming in, they're paying over the appraisal, they're skipping home inspections, they're skipping the termite, but they're overpaying by $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 to get that house. Absolute madness, my friends. Absolute madness. I'm sorry. This is just not for me. You know what I mean? Like and so luckily my niche of investing in real estate is still under all that. I mean, it's not, although I will say that the mobile homes have increased, actually, the appreciation, but it's inflation. I know once this market crashes, those mobiles are going down the tubes as far as the appreciation value goes, but I'm still going to be around what I paid for them, and I'm still going to have good cash flow. For me, that's what I wanted. I wasn't so much concerned about the appreciation. A lot of people are. A lot of people invest for that appreciation more than anything else. So, Anyway, as you can tell, this went way over my usual time frame. And I will continue on next week to talk about more about fine-tuning your numbers and how to come up with ways of figuring out how to buy a property.